So after 35 hours in the demo alone, a lot of research and chatting to people, got a pretty good idea of where I would rank each of these characters in Granblue. Now before we get started, before you all come for me with torches and pitchforks, let me just set some ground rules here. This ranking is for the demo only. The full game is very much going to blow this wide open, but if you want an idea of who you might want to gravitate towards and you've no idea where to start, this would be a great place for you to look. So I've ranked these based on like a variation of factors, so ease of use, the damage potential, maneuverability, survivability, but team composition and player skill is going to far outweigh any character drawbacks. This game is largely very balanced even from just the demo, and we know there are going to be more characters in the full game than we just have in the demo, so keep an open mind. Elemental properties are also going to be a factor going into the full game, as bosses have elemental weaknesses. That's not to say that you can't main a single character who belongs to a particular elemental property, but it'd be good to open your horizon to perhaps consider maining more than one character that has the potential to have a scope of elemental properties. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with the bottom of the barrel here. Now this is unfortunately a character I really like, and this is of course very opinion based, so do sound off in the comments below if you disagree with anything that I say here. But I'm going to start with Lan Aot at the bottom here. I really like Lan Aot, so please don't get it twisted. I think he's really cool, but simply because his damage comparatively to every other character in the game is just abysmal. Like where other characters can deal upwards of 500 damage per hit in a rapid fire attack, Lan Aot's dealing like 50 to 60 in an attack that's just as fast, and it's just not good enough. Now he does have some benefits, such as his Blade Impulse dash attack is really fast, gets you in there really quickly. His maneuverability is very good thanks to his ability to dodge with his unique attack while dodging left and right. He does have crowd control in his kit thanks to his Kaltfinger ability, but it's like one ability and it's got a really long cooldown. But beyond that, he just doesn't have an awful lot going for him. I think in the main game, once we get a little bit more establishment on how we can improve his damage, he'll actually be really good. But as things stand, with the tools we've been given here, he's just not up to par. So next on the list we have Gran. Now, there's nothing wrong with Gran per se, because he's designed as the jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none character. He has a dash attack, he has his fireball, his Regen Live. Panacea is a healing ability, so if you're just starting the game, that's going to be really useful for you, but obviously there are items that also heal you, so you may not need to rely on stuff like this as time goes on. Phalanx is a sort of damage reduction ability for the party, which is, again, it's useful, but hopefully as you progress through the game, you're not going to need it. But the one skill that he does have that I really like is his Armor Break, which can reduce defense by up to 25%, which is the largest defense break we have in the game currently. But you do have to build up your arts bar by doing other moves in order to get that armor break to be the best that it can be. So he's a little bit more awkward to use than some of the other characters, which is strange considering that he is the main character. That being said, because he does a little bit of everything, I would still recommend him for people who are just getting into Granblue Fantasy Relink. And that being said as well, in the main game, we also know that he's going to have a lot more skills available to him than most of the other characters in the game, as well as Zeta, the female equivalent to him. So definitely keep an eye on him, but as of the demo, I'm not all that impressed with him. So next up we have Gandgoza, who is your monk brawler character, and I actually quite like aspects of Gandgoza a lot. Namely his damage output. If your opponent is broken or you're at 100 link where you slow time down and you get special properties added to your attacks and his Raging Fury buff just goes crazy, you can output insane amounts of damage with Gandgoza. And he has something I also really like in a party-wide attack buff that not very many other characters get. However, he's just really slow and sluggish, and he has to be able to charge up his Raging Fist attacks in order to be able to do the things that he does best, which is raw damage. He does have 2 dive kick style attacks, so he can get in quickly, but those are obviously on cooldowns. And beyond that, his movement speed is so slow and sluggish that he's going to struggle with highly mobile enemies. If they're slow and you need someone that you can just slap somebody around with and you're free to do so, then Gandgoza might be a really good pick for you. But in any fight where enemies like to move, and I can imagine that in later fights within the main game, you're going to get enemies that move around a lot, I ain't picking him. Next on my list at number 8 is Catalina, which saddens me because she's my favourite character in Granblue Fantasy. I love her design, I love everything about her. But in this, she's a little clunky, I'm not gonna lie to you. But I think she has massive potential in the main game. So when you get sigils, equipment that you can use to augment your stats that will help you with skill cooldown, I think it's going to help her a great deal because she needs to have her stand, Ares, come out, which you get by building up with other skills and combos, to get use out of her damage, and you get additional buffs if you have Ares out for all of her skills, so you want to get those skills out as frequently as you can, and preferably without dodging, because dodging actually cancels Ares away, so you have to build him back up again. She has a unique Skybound art if she has Ares out, so you're gonna want to have Ares out as much as physically possible. But her damage is a little bit on the weaker side if you don't have Ares. Like, if you do, she's fantastic, but getting him out all the time is just a little bit more complex than some of the other characters on this list that can just do silly things off the bat. She does have a invulnerability buff that if you have Ares out, it's party-wide, but you get variations on invulnerability that are arguably better, where her invulnerability is time-based. You also get mirror image, which Lancelot gives to himself, which isn't fantastic, and I didn't really mention it when I spoke about Lancelot, or Yoda has the ability to give it to his whole party, which is based on the next time you get hit. So I think that that's arguably better, but I am very, very keen to see what Catalina can do from a support role going forward. So next up we have Io. Now Io is actually very strong. She has a lot of power behind her attacks. Her Stargaze unique attack can do gargantuan amounts of damage if charged effectively, and if you pair up all of her skills together, you can do a lot of damage very fast from a safe distance. However, she's extremely immobile. She can't move, so if there's any enemies that come at her, which you obviously don't want, she's going to struggle with them. And because Starfall is quite slow as well, it can miss enemies that are highly mobile, and that can be a problem for her. The concentration buff that she gets from one of her skills, I didn't find was all that useful. It's supposed to make it so that you can't be interrupted during your charges, but because Link attack can be used even if you're charging your skills, you don't have to actually use it. You can hold circle to charge, or you can hold triangle to hold up, charge up Stargaze, then press circle for Link attack, and then can continue to hold triangle through it, and you continue charging through it. So there's just no reason to have that buff. She does have heals as well, which is kind of nice to have, but I don't think that she's as good as some of the characters that I've put on this list higher, because she has one trick and she does that trick especially well if she's allowed to do it. So slap bang in the middle of the pack, I've put Yoda. Now I really like Yoda to the point where I think I might end up maining him in the main game. He's very solid in terms of damage and mobility. He just zips around the arena through moves like Awakening, where he just doesn't stop moving, and he has a very unique property in that as he's comboing, he's building up charges to use in his skills, but those charges also make his combos shorter, so he gets to his combo finishes quicker. And some of the stuff he gets out of those combos is actually really nice. So Hymn of the Hundreds is the aforementioned mirror image I had told you about earlier when speaking about Catalina. If he's got maximum stacks, he spreads that to his entire party. And he also has a really fun attack in Flashing Void, where you have to time the skills, but he kind of counts up as he's attacking all the way up to 13, and it's a really satisfying move to pull off. So if your enemy's broken, or you just have like 100% Link, or you've just got a good opportunity to zip around the arena doing crazy things and moving around a lot, Yoda's going to be the one for you. Very reminiscent of Onion Knight from the Dissidia Final Fantasy games, if you've played those, and he just has dual blades from Monster Hunter down to a Pat as well. So honestly, one of the most fun characters in the game. So as we reach the higher levels of the characters that I've listed here, you'll notice that a lot of them have access to counterattacks, and counterattacks in this game are insanely powerful, as they are in any action RPG title. Any longsword users in Monster Hunter will know this. And number 5, I've put Sig Freed. Sig Freed's damage potential, even in just his base combo, as long as you perform the timings correctly, much like Phantasy Star Online with characters like Gandgoza and Sig Freed, you have to time your button presses to maximize the damage that you get from the base combos, and it works beautifully with Sig Freed. And because he's able to buff himself so he doesn't get knocked out of his attacks, he has super armor essentially, he's getting that damage off whether the enemy likes it or not. And his buffs are really strong, he has the ability to get in on his enemy very quickly, he just has a lot of really powerful stuff going for him, as well as that counterattack. And the reason that I've put Sig Freed so much higher than Gandgoza on my list is simply because he does the same kind of damage output as he does, but with much higher mobility to go with it. So this character I considered putting higher in my list, to be honest with you, because she kinda has everything, and I think in the main game, she has the potential to be one of the strongest characters in the game, but we're just talking about the demo here. So at number 4, I have Narmaya. Now Narmaya has everything, really. She's got really strong speed, she's got powerful attacks, her movement's really good, she can counter-attack, which is always a bonus, and her counter-attack is really good because it helps her build her stacks up so that she does more damage. She's just really strong. There's actually very little wrong with her kit. She's a little bit complex to use compared to a lot of characters because of her stance switching. So if you're just starting out, maybe I wouldn't consider playing with her. But she's very good, and I'm sure that many players will gravitate very quickly to Narmaya because of her massive backstory. Now, if I weren't going to main Yoda her in Granblue Fantasy Relink from the character we have available, I would pick my next pick as my main, Zeta. She's extremely good. Her damage is very powerful. She's got a private debuff through her triangle attack in the air, which allows her to deal more damage to the enemy, so she builds up even more damage. She has a fantastic counter, which is built into her base kit. It's not a skill you have to equip, but her main mechanic, her high jumping, allows her to just be out of range of the majority of enemy attacks for as long as she really wants, as long as you can get the timing down for the jumping. But it's really just powerful as well. She has paralysis crowd control in one of her skills. She just has a lot going for her. Her ranged attack is really quick. It's really long range. It makes it so that she deals more damage. Her timing does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you've got to that point, she's actually extremely fun to play, extremely safe to play, has support in her kit as well. One of her buffs is a party-wide attack buff, which we love from Gandgoza, so why not just use it on her instead? And she's just so maneuverable and fun to play, it's hard to find anything wrong with her kit. Second to the top now, and we're on Rackam. Now, Rackam I have put as high on this list as I have because his damage output is crazy. He can do that damage from a safe distance, much like Io can, but he can move while he's doing it. He's a lot more maneuverable than Io is, thanks to his dodge ability that allows him to be invincible temporarily and move out of the way of whatever's hitting him. And when you're at Link 100, he is at maximum heat gauge, which is a mechanic that he uses in order to build up for his bullseye blast, which charges quicker depending on how hot his gun is running. Well, at 100% Link, it's at full charge all the time. So when you're in that sort of time slow phase, it's in that hunt all of the time. So you're just throwing out damage over and over and over again, and it gets really silly really quickly. Not only that, but he has 2 buffs that he can double dip into, one of which increases his offensive stats but reduces his defense, which, let's face it, no one minds that unless you prefer to play a sort of tankier build, and then another which increases the number of hits that his regular attacks deal. So not only is he extremely powerful, but he's also really easy to play and also strangely safe while he's doing all of his pew-pew guns. If you ever played a ranger in Phantasy Star Online or a bowgun in Monster Hunter, you'll feel right at home with him. So the number 1 pick on my list is not a character I would ordinarily play, but she's very, very cool. It's Charlot. Charlot's damage output is far and away the strongest in the demo, like not even close. As I said, we put Lan Aot at the bottom because his rapid hits were doing maybe 50 to 70 damage per hit. Charlot's does upwards of 300 to 500 per hit depending on the situation that she's in, and that's just her basic combo. The main thing that really breaks Charlot, and you do have to be semi-competent at the game to play her, is that she has a buff that gives her up to 120% attack buff as long as she doesn't get hit while she has the buff up. So you have to know what you're doing with the game in general in order to play her, but when you can, her damage output is crazy. She's also just an offensive powerhouse in general. She has a counter attack built into her heavy attack, which still attacks even if, you don't get the counter, but it's built in. So if you're really confident in your ability to play Charlot and timings, you're able to kind of just keep the assault up, much like Sig Freed, whilst also being a little bit nippier and a bit quicker. Her movement speed actually isn't that high. It's not that different from, say, Sig Freed, but her dash attack, which is extremely long and extremely fast, also happens to have defense down piled into it for good measure. She's extremely easy to play. All you really have to do is just mash buttons and you'll still win. She's going to do crazy damage even when they're in overdrive state. Her Sword of Lumiel attack is a fantastic combo finisher. Her Holy Ladder, which is a skill you have to go into the menu to equip, is a really nice ranged attack. The only skill I didn't really use with Charlot is her ability that reduces damage, because I don't really want to be taking damage with her anyway. But if you want a breeze for the opening stages of the game, unless there are adjustments made in the full game, which I would imagine there probably will be, Charlot is number 1 in the demo, far and away. So yeah, there is a short ranking list of all 11 characters that are present in the demo for Granblue Fantasy Relink. There are obviously many more characters that we have to look forward to when the full game releases on February 1st. And my favourite characters ranged from characters that I thought were weaker, to characters I thought were in the middle tier, to characters that I thought were really strong. So you really are fine to pick whoever you want to. My opinion is based purely on the demo and the parameters that were set for us within it. So do let me know in the comments below if you've played the demo as much as I have, or if you're looking at the characters that I've presented here and thinking about which ones you want to gravitate towards, and let me know who you're fancying maining in the full game when it releases. And if you don't know what you want to comment, just type algorithm, because it's really helpful for me on YouTube. I'm building up momentum with Granblue and I'd really like more people to see this game. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you've enjoyed today's video, perhaps consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell for notifications on future Granblue and RPG videos. We have a lot of RPGs coming out. FF7 Rebirth, Persona 3 Reload, Yakuza Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Granblue Fantasy Relink, of course, Dragon's Dogma 2. It's a lot, but we'll get through it together. If you've really enjoyed what you've seen today, then perhaps you'd like to consider clicking on the link in the description box below, and you'd like to support the channel further through my Patreon link, which all of the funds that I earn from that go straight back into the channel, and it really does help me create great content for you guys, so I appreciate everyone that has clicked on that link and supported already, and those who continue to do so that you can see on the screen right now. So thank you all very much once again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care everyone. Bye bye.